Welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. Let's talk money.
And welcome to the Money Mastermind Show. Tonight is a special show. Most of you out there may not realize it, but we are celebrating a 1-year anniversary, which is pretty important for us. You know, it's gone by pretty quickly. And, thank you everyone out there who watches and listens to us and puts up with us, and supports us. We appreciate every one of you. So that is a great milestone, I think, for any group. But I'll make a weak transition here. We'll talk about milestones. There's lots of financial milestones that we come across. And a big problem with a lot of people is they don't know how to plan for them. So we're going to talk about that. And to do that, we invited a number of our good friends and guests back to our show to help discuss financial milestones. And joining us for our show is Joe Salsihai of Stacking Benjamins.
Hey!
We have Harlan Landis of Bluetooth Awards.
Hello.
Matt Giovanisi of RoastyCoffee.com.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Steve Stewart of Money Plan SOS.
Heidi ho.
And Todd Tressiter of Financial Mentor.
Hello.
And of course, thank you all for joining us. And we do have the members of the Money Mastermind Show, which we should rightfully introduce. It is our 1-year anniversary. If I could, we have the whole list of people here, and I got to pick out the members of our group here amongst them. We have Kyle Prevost of YoungandThrifty.ca, Miranda Marquette of Planting Money Seeds, Peter Anderson of Bible Money Matters, and Tom Drake of Canadian Finance Blog. And I am Glenn Craig of Free From Broke. All right, introductions are over. Let's jump into this, guys. Okay? We do have an event page, so I should mention that. If you're out there and you have any questions regarding financial milestones, ask those questions, because if you can't find an expert to answer that tonight, then you're not trying. So, what are some of the big financial milestones that we tend to spend lots of money on and need to plan for? Off the bat, I'm thinking college, marriage, children, buying a home. For some people, buying a car, that's pretty big, a big early one. Leaving the 9-to-5, retirement. Maybe we'll get to some others. But let's start off with college. How do we plan for that big one? You know, I think for a lot of us, sometimes as a kid, you might not be able to do a whole lot. As a parent, it's probably more in your ballpark to do it, but there's certainly things that everyone can do to financially plan for college.
How about not going?
That's a thought.
Right. Right out the gate.
I didn't go to college, so it's relevant to me.
Well, I think that's a good point. And I think he brings up a good point there in terms of money milestones. We have a whole list of things as a society we're supposed to do, these boxes we're supposed to check, whether it's buying a house or going to college or having kids. Do we really need to hit all these financial milestones to be considered successful?
I didn't hit any of those.
I know, and you're just fine. Look at you.
Some of them you don't want to hit, like the children thing. Don't hit children. That's bad.
Hard.
Don't hit a car. That's not going to help you either. Yeah, you're right. But look, obviously, it's going to be the ones that actually apply to you, right? You don't have to do all of these things that we listed.
I'm just saying I want the show to focus around me and what's important to me, and not.
Hey, if you're not throwing it out there, then we don't know about it, and I'm sure there's people out there that that is the question, right? For the longest time, I didn't finish my degree, and it didn't apply to me because I had a job and I was doing well, and the job didn't require a degree. Even if I got one, it wasn't going to get me a raise. So, that would have been a waste of money if I, taken out tens of thousands of dollars to finish a degree for that. But we've discussed it on this show before. The stats seem to prove it out that having a degree certainly puts you in a better position than not having a degree overall, financially, as far as finding a job and whatnot. It's not for everyone, and there are other options. So yeah, you could save a lot of money by not going. But let's say that you're gonna go. How do you plan for it?
Have rich
Well, probably.
Have rich parents. Yeah, that's a tough one to try to figure that out. If I can work on that one.
What's the account? The 504C or what is it called?
529.
529.
Right, one of those 500 numbers.
529, 530, whatever it takes.
A lot of 9 to 5.
Yeah. Planning for those college costs, I mean, I think that really starts when the kid is in junior high or high school, really. You know, you need to have a discussion with them and talk to them about what you're planning on providing for them, if you're going to be paying for the whole thing or if you're going to be paying for part of it. And then talking about, you know, bridging the gap, whether it's through financial aid, through grants, work study, whatever the case may be, but planning for those things ahead of time and then working as hard as you can while you're in high school in order to get good grades, to do your research to find those financial aid programs because there's 1,000,001 of them out there. And then also just, you know, learning what you can do before you get to college in order to have your finances in order.
And, you know, I'm thinking about it, you know, somewhat related to what Matt was saying. You know, he said not to go. But maybe, like, put some real soul searching into why you want to go, right? Don't just go there and say, I need to get a degree because I have to get a degree, and then kind of kick away 4 years and maybe somebody else's money. Figure out what you want to do and then try to figure out a way to match that.
So are we talking about you as an individual going to college and you as an individual saving for your own college, or are we're talking about it through the parents' eyes? And when do you start putting money away? And I mean, as soon as your kid is born, start putting money away, because that way you don't have to put as much money away per month or however it works, because you have plenty of time, even more time, and that's bonus, right? And then at the same time, I would say that when your kid is ready to go, I would have him fill out as many grant applications and scholarship applications until their fingers bleed, and that way they get paid for, and then they're going to have even more money to maybe go to even better school. I don't know how that works either. I'm assuming you can buy your way into Harvard, but you know, I think you have to have that insurance package by starting as early as possible, and then also making your kid work for it and never letting him know or her know that you have this money waiting for them. Make it be a surprise so that they don't assume like, well, I don't have to work or do anything to pay for college, you know.
So let your kid, you know, be all depressed that they're never going to afford college, and then like just at the last minute surprise them.
Surprise!
Guess what? No, I hear what you're saying. You're right. Start early, right? We say that with everything. If you know you're having kids, it's a great time to start throwing a little bit of money here and there. You know, you could every birthday party you could throw a little bit more into that 529. But I like what Peter was saying also, and just sitting down with your kids and making it real and saying, this is what school's going to cost. You know, if you want to pay for it, you got to figure out.
Right? 20 years.
Well, I'll chime in. In this family, we have a huge family culture.
We're breaking up a little bit, Todd.
In our family, we have a big family culture of education. That's a primary value, and so. You know, we've been saving through 529s and Coverdell IRAs, and we're setting the expectation that the kids go to college, and so they understand, they take education seriously, and it's just part of our family culture. So I think, you know, I think there's an expectation that you can set, and, you know, it's a given around here that's where we go, and that's what we do. I think it's an important part of the development of your child.
Along those same lines, having a path in mind, way in advance, so that when your son, your daughter gets to college, they're not just going around from degree to degree trying to figure out what they want to do. I mean, it might end up being the wrong path, or it might lead them into something that they plan on changing later. But at least getting to school and having an idea of a course of action that's going to get them entrance to their degree in 4 years or less is just a great way to save money.
It's also a great way to stress out, right? having to pre-choose what your future is going to be all in like one application.
Well, that's the thing, though, is I had full ride scholarship for physics, and I did not finish in physics. So that's the other thing is trying to figure that out ahead of time is very difficult. I went through 3 different majors.
Did you fail perpetual motion? What? Kinetic energy?
I just got there and decided I wanted to do something else.
It's amazing how you went from physics to writing. I think that's phenomenal.
Physics to writing about financial stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's physics, right?
Money's just math, right?
So gravity.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this year's hottest graduate gift on the market. More money for beer and textbooks. A great gift for your young one.
What happens to a person when they're a miss?
They obviously miss out on some great financial tips.
It's funny, the amount of money you have to save for college is just a astronomical number, and I'm sure Todd, working with clients, can back me up on this one. But when I was a financial planner back, it's been 7 years now, it was if a parent wanted to pay for the whole thing at the time, back to Matt's point, start when they're born. When a kid was born, you had to save maybe $250 to $300 for a in-state public school every month to make that happen, and it's a ridiculous amount of money that you have to save, and starting that early, is a difficult thing. I mean, I remember sitting down with clients who just had the baby, and I'm like, guess what? You're on the hook for $250 a month. Congratulations.
It is pretty obscene.
Well, it's even worse than that, because if you're paying for private school before they go to college, you're double downing. It's like really bad.
And that's funny you say that, Todd, because my son was choosing between Carnegie Mellon, which is a really fine private school, and the University of Texas, which was in-state public and also has a great engineering program. Both have great engineering programs, but he couldn't articulate why he would want to go to the private school over the public school. So that was pretty much the decision. If you can't articulate why you want to spend 3 times the money, we're going to go to the in-state public school. But for a lot of people, they can articulate. We have friends whose children go to Notre Dame, and they'll tell you exactly why they go to Notre Dame. And it wasn't football, I mean, they were very passionate about the history. That's right, about the history of the background there. So, but my kid couldn't articulate it. So he's at the University of Texas and still is in a great engineering program for a lot less money.
Yeah, actually what I was talking about, Joe, was private high school or private grade school.
Oh, right.
While saving for college. That's like the double down, the double penalty there.
Well, are you doing both?
Never mind grade in high school. What if you need, you got to pay for pre-K? Pre-K is
it's where the real
cheap.
connections are built. Networking.
No, I don't mean that as like a scholastic type of thing. But if you're in a 2-salary household and you've got a kid, you got to find something to do with them. You got to put them in daycare. You got to put them in pre-K, and that's not cheap. I mean,
isn't Obama taking care of that?
Not quite. No. Some states are starting to push it a little more, but
sorry, Canadians.
So, okay, let's talk about something else.
Physics.
We could talk about physics. It's not much of a financial milestone for most people, but usually for a lot of people, before college comes, you might get married, and that's a huge expense. And if you watch TV, it's supposed to be like some kind of like 50,000 and up, and you're supposed to hire, like bands you hear on top 40 stations, and invite everyone that you've ever come in contact with, and how do you plan for that?
Well,
I have an idea.
It's not nearly as expensive as divorce.
How about don't get married?
Matt just wants no milestones in his life.
It's good when you have no goals.
Super cheap, and then you don't have to pay for the divorce, right?
That's logical.
But a divorce client of mine told me why divorce is so expensive. You know why it's so expensive? According to this guy, he said it's so expensive because it's worth it.
Oh man. You never know where this show's gonna go.
First comes love, then comes marriage. Then.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be a wedding DJ, and I've seen my fair share of extravagant weddings. And, actually, two of the most extravagant weddings I've ever been to, somebody almost died on the dance floor, and that's not a pop song. That's a real thing that happened. So,
are you trying to play up your DJ skills? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, I'm not. I don't like that part of my life, but I just thought these. I have this theory. It's like the more extravagant the wedding, the faster the marriage. But I don't think you have to. I think actually now the trend maybe, and I could be wrong, is moving away from big marriages, big like ceremonious marriages. I don't watch enough MTV to know, but I would imagine, like, I know a lot of people that I'm friends with are not really into the big, ceremonious, spend $50,000 for a wedding and invite everybody you know and people that you don't know just to it's more of like a low key sort of thing, because just like college for a lot of younger people, it's getting to that point where like a lot of businesses, a lot of like startup companies don't really care about your college education and care more about the important part, which in a marriage is love, and in work it's your experience and what you can actually do and what you can perform. So I think, I mean, I know I'm taking the other side of it here, but I think that doesn't I don't think it's a milestone that you have to really prepare for. I mean, you can prepare a little bit, but it's, if you should get married no matter what, right? It doesn't matter how much it costs.
Well, so here's the thing. Just to Matt's point, I did not prepare for a wedding at all because I didn't care about getting married. It was not a big priority for me. So when we did get engaged and we did decide to get married, I did not have any preconceived notions of what I wanted. And it's really super easy if you're just going to go for it in 2 months and then just like go, because my wedding cost $3,000, and we had to do it on 2 different sides of the country too. So I mean, there's something to be said about like not planning for a wedding and then just cramming it out as simply as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the wedding industry is huge. They're like, it's a huge moneymaker, and with all of these really bad shows about saying yes to dresses and I don't know, other pop culture references. I just think that the more it's like it's on television, and the more it seems like fabricated in a way that like millennials are just like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, it's just, that seems old school to me.
And let me ask you,
a thought.
You were a wedding DJ, so I'm sure you charged more for a wedding than you did like just a regular party, right?
Yeah, $15,000. $15,000. $1,500.
Oh, I gotta get into the DJ line.
Well, yeah, why you stop, man?
There's a lot of upsells, right? So $1,500 gets us in the door, but then it costs more money if we have to set up our own equipment. It costs more money if you want hats and props, because that was a thing. That was a thing I had to collect. A lot of times it's 4 hours, right? But they want to, everyone's really, really drunk and having a really good time, so they come up to the DJ booth and just pay us like, $500 or whatever in cash to stay longer. And it's just, yeah, I mean, it can get really expensive too, because you see a wedding that's at a really nice hotel, and the people have money because they pulled up to your house in a friggin' Mercedes. Like, you're gonna charge more. So it's just it's and that's a DJ. We're not even talking about a band, which, I mean, if it were my wedding, I'd have a full band, which are even more expensive because you got to pay like 10 dudes and 1 lady singer.
Is that how it works out?
Yeah, 10 dudes and 1 lady singer. That's every wedding band ever.
That's a tough
kind of like the lineup for this podcast.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
9 and 1. We just need one more guy and we'd have a wedding band.
Let's do it. So, like, 1 year we're out. We're just going to form a wedding band instead, and and we'll just podcast about it.
Apparently, we'd make a lot more money.
Have you guys heard me sing? I don't know if we could do that as the lady singer.
That wasn't part of the criteria.
Look, it's all part of
the
this
sound machine.
All right, so marriage.
Hey, Glenn, on that topic, our friend Sandy Smith over at Yes, I Am Cheap just got married, and it cost her $5,000 in New York City. And it was really cool, the things that she did. She had it at a really nice place, but she went with a Tuesday because she could get a lot cheaper. You know, she could get a nice venue on a Tuesday versus on a Friday night in the middle of wedding season. She really hunted for dresses and found a designer gown. She had it made way out of the country. That thing was halfway across the world that it was made. She had she had the beautiful dress. She had the whole wedding. She did a great job of paring down her wedding, the number of people that came. So it was only the people that were really important to her. I think she had 35 or 40 people at her wedding. But $5,000 in Manhattan, and still a great wedding. That's I think what people should be aiming for.
And a programming note, in 2 weeks Sandy will be on to give us all the goods.
How about that? I'm just Mr. Prelude guy.
I know. Look at you.
I know for my own wedding, we picked a winter wedding. We picked a Friday night instead of a Saturday night, and we were able to get a much bigger package for less than if we had picked, like the first day of summer, which is the typical day that everybody jumps in there and they pay through the nose. So yeah, you can do it if you're just willing to change, what you want, what you think you need.
Yeah, what it really comes down to is you can save a ton of money on your wedding if you want to. You can plan ahead, months or even years in advance to get the best possible deal on venue, on decorations, on the DJ, whatever you want, and you can spend a little bit of money. Or if it's not important to you, if maybe her parents are paying for it, like that's what happened for me. My wife's parents actually paid for the wedding, and it was extremely expensive. Much easier to do it that way, let me tell you, but otherwise you're going to need to sit down and actually plan it out like any other big expense.
Yeah, but not only that, like, why not get creative? Like, the more creative you get, the cooler and more unique your wedding's going to be, and the cheaper it'll be as well. So
it's true. It doesn't have to be more expensive, Matt. You're right on.
And people remember those little things that you put in. You put your time into those little touches that you do, and they kind of feel like what's the big blown up thing. They don't always remember all that stuff either.
Matt's going to have a medieval feast-style wedding. Everybody's going to dress in chainmail.
I think
Matt, like that scene from the Cable Guy.
Matt should write a rap song for his vows.
So
he should have a money rap song as part of his vows.
So Joe, I did DJ a wedding where everyone wore chainmail, and there was a minstrel quartet that was around for dinner, and then we were the DJs that played club music afterwards, which was really strange, in an old castle that was turned into a winery. And I did write a rap song for my best friend. I was the best man at my best friend's wedding, and his wife wanted me to write the intro music, so I wrote them an entire rap song and ended up writing them 4 songs and packaging it in a wedding EP for them and gave it out to everybody at the wedding.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll do that again.
So Matt, did the bride come in a chastity belt?
Like crawling? Because those things are heavy.
So let's get on to the next subject.
Yes, please.
And on that note.
This is 2015. Come on.
Let's transition nicely into that one. They say that you can never really plan for kids, right? You read all the books that you want, you take all the classes you want. Once those little suckers come out, it's a whole different world. But that's raising them, and actually dealing with them. But can you plan financially for them?
I have an idea.
Don't have kids. Don't marry your kids.
Oh God.
I'm sorry, did I steal your thunder?
No, you guessed it. So far, I'm not spending a dime. This is great.
Just be a lonely man.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe that's why. But can you plan financially for kids? Let's say that they're coming.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Anyone? No?
I thought I was
just
prepared, but I wasn't prepared once I had them. So I thought I had everything planned out. I was buying everything on discount, saving some money aside, and all that was gone within the first month, I think. So I don't feel like an expert on this.
I have friends with kids, and I have one friend who's doing some clever things like there's an entire Facebook group for for new moms who need like hand-me-downs and stuff, and she just goes on there and like kind of goes shopping through Facebook, and it's just like moms all in the area who are just like trading off each other's stuff, which is cool, and that's a good way to save, and most of the stuff's like practically like new anyway.
Yeah, especially when kids are young, like when they're babies,
Yeah.
they don't wear out their clothes at all. I mean, unless they're pooping in them or throwing up on them, the clothes themselves aren't getting much wear. So,
And the same with toys too. Like, there's this. It's like you can go on Facebook and find local groups, and you can just do like toy exchanges and clothes exchanges, and there's ways that you don't have to spend a ton of money on your kids. I think I don't know what the financials are on this, but having like a cloth diaper service rather than buying like tons of Huggies. I don't know if that's cheaper or
not worth it. Doesn't matter if it's cheaper. It's totally not worth it.
That sounds like a good. That's what something I would do. I don't want to destroy the environment with Huggies.
Nope.
You haven't changed enough diapers yet, Matt. Just wait.
Never have I ever.
just wait till you're cleaning the poo off.
You got just one of them sitting in the corner.
No, you pay the service to come over and do that for you. That's what I'm saying, right?
I guess maybe if somebody else was changing the diaper,
Yeah.
maybe.
We would really need somebody on the show that dealt with that to argue that point. I want to get diapers out of the house and coming back as soon as possible. I've certainly considered it, but when we thought about it just a little bit, we were like, yeah, no.
You can make your own food too.
Yeah, so diapers are one of those things where I'm just seriously like, yeah, I'm pretty, I try to lessen my footprint and all that kind of stuff, but on the diaper issue, no. Just no.
We'll make up for the environment in other spots.
We had the cloth diapers for our first child. For the second child, we went with the Huggies because we were done.
Even our audience is chiming in here. Amy Robles is telling us that cloth diapers suck. Seriously, I mean, come on.
Matt doesn't think they suck. He's wearing one right now.
I have a service to fix them up.
Well, you know that
Not the subject.
When you
actually
sit down there and for longer periods of time, and
that is actually a thing, for adults, not using toilet paper to save money.
No.
Instead, you use old rags or whatever, and then you put them in a bucket of water, basically, and then throw them in the washing machine when you're done.
Get a bidet installed.
There
Like I have.
you can dig a big hole and not flush your toilet.
We hit test.
Extreme ways to save.
No toilet paper. This is the Money Mastermind show, isn't it?
Isn't there something like? Isn't there a way to like fertilize your garden or something, right? With your weight. I mean, if you're gonna do that, I mean, you might as well just go all the way.
Wow. What was it, Mad Max 3, where they harnessed it?
You can make your own baby food.
See, that's a good one. Yes. Well, we used to have a grinder, and you could just put the food in and grind it up.
Yeah, I
And
think
you're not
now
buying special stuff.
I think you can like magic bullet all your baby food.
Yeah.
Then that way you're not spending extra money on. I mean, do you know how much they charge for a little thing of baby food? Ridiculous.
Well, just the whole baby industry. I mean, if you think about it, my twins grew so quickly, and if I had it to do over again, any new clothes that we would have purchased, I would have never done, because Nick and Autumn were through their clothes in 8 or 9 months, and then they're on to something else. So buying new clothes for a young child is a huge waste of money. I mean, that's a place where if I was looking back, that we could have done it differently.
Can't you just take the Bart Simpson approach and just have them wear the exact same thing on every single day.
Every single day.
Yeah, just
Sure,
orange shirt and
yeah.
blue shorts. I don't.
Wait a minute. How do you know that they're not like Mark Zuckerberg and they have like 40 different versions of it?
Closet full of it.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally the way to go. My wife goes to these garage sales in our neighborhood, and we live in a pretty nice neighborhood, but, they have these stacks and stacks of children's clothes that you can buy for 10 cents or 25 cents a piece, so
Yeah.
you pay 15 or 20 bucks for these little tiny jeans at the Carter's store or some other high-end children's clothing store, and you buy the exact same jeans after they've been worn 3 times at somebody's house for 25 cents. So,
And how about Peter? How about Peter? The number of times that you bought your kid a really nice, expensive toy, and they were in love with the box it came in, right?
yeah, exactly.
We couldn't get out
Yep.
the box.
Here's an argument for you. You know what box my kids like the best? The diaper box.
Oh.
A nice big box. They build trains out of it and everything. I don't think cloth diapers come in a big box like that.
Beer cases do.
It's really not as big. I don't think.
So all those strategies work until your girls become teenagers.
Oh Lord, this is true too.
I will never have to experience that. I do have a son that looks like he's going to be emo, but I don't have to worry about
What does that mean?
it.
You have a son that's going to be emotional?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Hey, I was emo, and I turned out okay.
So your son will be thrifty. All right, let's
My girlfriend left me. Like that kind of stuff.
talk about something else here now. Here's one we don't always think about planning for, but I think more and more people are doing it. Leaving the 9 to 5. A lot of people they leave their corporate job, their desk job, their cube job. Maybe start off on their own. Maybe they stay at home with their kids, and then somebody else works. Whatever it is, but you can plan for it. But how do you do that?
Finally, something I can talk about. The marriage thing, it's been 15 years. I got a daughter who's not going to college for another 4 or 5 years. Okay, I can talk about leaving the day job. Thanks for letting me come in. I just left the day job recently, and it is something that you really do have to think about. You've got to think about, do you have the finances to take a dip if you're taking a dip? A lot of times when we decide to go self-employed, it's not the same. You're not going to get a steady paycheck from week to week. And so we had to weigh out the pros and cons in this household. Luckily, my wife does work. She makes a decent income. So the gap between what we wanted to make and what we were bringing in wasn't that far. But I'll tell you, some of the things that people don't think about when they leave the day job is the different types of insurances. You might get a little bit of coverage from your work, but that goes away. 2 times salaried life insurance, that goes away. Disability.
Doesn't Obama take care of that?
He's still working on pre-K.
And a new cloth diaper program. But the life insurance, disability insurance, it's not cheap for someone who's self-employed. There's a lot of those types of things that people don't think about. Taxes, payroll taxes that they have to pay out of pocket. So we had to weigh out those things when I decided to leave the day job to come and do this type of thing full time. So I know there's other things that people have to worry about. Some of you guys have experienced that yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. I just actually have a meeting with my accountant tomorrow to figure out how to pay. I don't know how to pay taxes. Like, I don't know how to pay quarterly taxes. I know how to pay them every year. But I just actually signed up for a program called Zero, which is an online accounting package. So I just going to go to my accountant and understand that, or have him understand like that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, because I actually don't know anything about. I just recently learned like double entry accounting and started just kind of trying to figure it out on my own. And I got it. I figured it out. I just want to go to my accountant and say, like, am I doing all this correctly? And yeah, insurance. I mean, I'm a young dude. I'm not worried about disability insurance, because unless like I break my fingers, I think I'll be all right. Right now, Obama is paying for my healthcare fully, so, but that's just this year, and then that has to go away, and yeah, I have to account for that too. Living expenses is, there's a lot for self-employed people that they have to worry about, but there's also, like once you get it set up and you have like automation in place, it's just like getting a paycheck. It's just like, when you got a paycheck, you did pay for all that stuff, but you were paying for it through a bulk system, and it was coming out before it even touched your bank account, before you even got a check. So it didn't seem all that hard, but you were getting hit, but now you see the money coming in, and you physically have to pay it, and it almost makes you sick to your stomach that you have to pay for all that stuff.
Actually, you can set up automatic an electronic debit system with the IRS, and they'll help you pay your quarterly taxes automatically, or you can even set it up monthly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Or if you pay yourself a salary, you don't have to worry about quarterly taxes. You just pay it when you pay your salary.
That's true.
Out of your check.
But you got to pay the taxes, which is a whole other thing. There's easier ways to set it up, but there's you have to make sure that you pay it on time, pay the right amounts, that you don't pay it late.
And I think Matt makes a good point, though, when he talks about how he has an accountant, and I have an accountant too. But it's nice to go to somebody like that and just talk to them about, what kind of business structure should you have? Like, I'm going to be dissolving my business and having to restructure it and do something different.
What are you doing?
I don't know yet. I need to go talk to my accountant.
What are you dissolving?
Oh, I'm dissolving my LLC, and I'm going to have to redo it as something else.
Interesting. Because that's what I have an LLC, and seems to be fine.
Well, it depends on who you have as your partner.
Don't have one.
It depends on what you're doing, too, and how
go.
much money you're making, and what you want to do with taxes. And there's a lot of different. An accountant can help you figure out your best way around it, basically. Right. But I think what a lot of people who go into a business, whatever that business may be, they go in there with maybe the passion of building maybe their product or their service, and they forget that there's this whole other layer of administration that they have to think about and be able to cover too. Was it you, Steve? I think you mentioned the payroll taxes part of it. Depending on how you set things up, you're paying both sides of it, and it's like it chokes you every time you have to make that payment through. And it's hard. I mean, even my accountant costs more now for the company than it did just doing my regular taxes, because he's got to just file like 10 more forms for me or whatever it is. So you have to be able to account for those costs too.
I think when you're making that jump, you got to think of yourself as a startup, right? I mean, startups think about their burn rate and how long am I going to burn money before I actually start making money. And once you start thinking along burn rate, then I think you'll start making some better decisions. And by the way, everybody who I've ever met who started a company and had an idea of how long it was going to take them to make money, you needed to either double or triple that number of months until you actually did make money. Because everybody has these, oh no, people are going to buy this right now, and it doesn't happen. It's harder than you think.
Yeah, for me, I had a business before I left my company that was doing okay. I also had the help of the federal government to pay my unemployment tax or whatever, unemployment benefits, and I used that as a business loan and did it for a year and then got out of it. But and I got lucky with that. But there's two ways to go about it. Yes, there's that burn rate. You can save up a bunch of money and then jump full time into something, and then you have a runway, and you have to do whatever it takes to make money so that you don't run out of money, which is basically what I looked at when I said when I got laid off, I gave myself 1 year. I had no savings. I had nothing. All I had was these measly checks coming in from the government, and I was still, driving a BMW and living in a brand new condo. So at that point, I had to sell everything and move in with my brother in order to survive. Because if you are going to start your own business and that's what you want to do, you do what it takes. Like, that's more important than pretty much everything at that point. And then hopefully you make it, or worst case scenario is you go back to regular 9 to 5 and try to do it all over again. I don't know if that's helpful, but
It's always good to hear somebody's perspective and what they actually did instead of hearing, the you should do this and you should do that, and then it really doesn't work out for anybody.
I think a great resource, Glenn, is a book called The E-Myth. I think if you're thinking about jumping off, you got to read the E-Myth first, because working for yourself is totally different than you think it's going to be. We spent all our time not talking about what products we make when we're self-employed. We talked about taxes and insurances and all this stuff that you don't think about, right? Everybody goes in with a passion for one thing, and you spend 70% of your time not doing that thing. You're running the business.
I don't know. I don't think that that's true, though. No, I mean, at least not for me. I spend very little time on my business. Like the administration ends of it. Again, it's just me, and I have a team of like 3 people. It's not really, to me. What I do for everything is I put a system in place, and then I kind of like set it and forget it. But I make sure I put upfront work into creating a system that just works. So whether that's like with Zero, putting that in place, it's like, look, I set it up. I went back through the entire year and matched everything up. It took me a very long time and multiple screw-ups to get it all set up. But I was determined. I set up it just took me one full day. And once I had it set up, it's super easy to go in. And I have all my accounts are set up pretty simply. Like every business expense goes through my business credit card, which has my chart of accounts, and I know where everything is supposed to go and is allocated. And then I have my PayPal account for paying employees, and then I have my business account for income, right? So I set those all up, and I'm hoping that I go to the accountant tomorrow, and he's like, everything you're doing is great, and you're fine, and you have the perfect business, and go home and.
Well, I think what you're describing though is intuitively describing a lot of what goes on in the E-Myth, and that they talk about in that book setting up all different processes to take care of those things so that you can put your time where your passions lay, and then you hire the right people and you have the right systems in place to take care of those things that a lot of people get bogged down in the first couple of years in a business.
You should probably read it.
Maybe you don't have to. I don't know. You seem to have it in place, but it also depends on what you're doing too. If you open a storefront for whatever it is, you're hit with a different layer than when you work online. To hire a team of 3, you probably hire part-time people. You work at home. You don't have that same outlay as if you open up a candy store. Let's just say, now you have to staff the store. You have to have people running it and doing all sorts of different things. Make sure that people are there all the time when it's open, and you can't do all of those things yourself. So those types of systems aren't always easy, and it doesn't always come to people to do that. So
it's true. I almost started one of those pool companies. Thank God I didn't.
There you go. So, but let's say you have that side business that you think is doing all right. Where do you realize, okay, I could jump off? Maybe I have a nice cushion. Like, what type of cushion do you think you need to go off and do that?
Well, that's going to depend on everybody's business. They got to look at that runway. You've got to know if you're going to have that burn rate, like Joe was talking about. How long can you last before you run out of money? Craig Mathias, who's been on the show before, he saved a buttload of money for a couple of years before he quit his job, and he just quit cold turkey and started up a small business on the side. And every month his revenue increases a little bit, to where his 5-year runway is again a 5-year runway. He didn't really eat into his reserves that much, and now he's going to start getting ahead of the game. So 3 to 6 months worth of expenses would be great to have in the bank, because you've got to last a while, but it depends. How far is that gap between what you need to have to live and what you have in reserves from month to month to be able to add to what you might bring in? Right. I always say plan for the worst, and then you'll be ready for the best.
And I think also take a look at your personal life, right? I was when I had left my job and had done my job full time, like my expenses were in the $4,000 a month range, and if that were the case, I would have never made anything. I would have never made it. There's just too much money that I was spending personally, instead of putting into the business. So what I ended up doing was like selling all of my stuff and renting out my apartment and finding a really cheap place to live. And thankfully, my brother has a brand new place and had no roommate, and I pay him pennies. to live here, and I stopped buying stuff, and I just, went deep and focused on my business. But I cut my expenses down by, I don't know how percentages work, but from like 4,000 to maybe like 1,300. And that was, I was able to extend the runway that I actually didn't have, but I was able to do that. So I took a hard sacrifice, and I knew that I was going to sacrifice for 2 to 3 years, and I'm thankfully on year 3, and now I don't have to sacrifice anymore, and I can now move out of my brother's house, which I am in August, and actually getting a place of my own, and again, so I still have my condo, but I think you have to look at your personal life and say, like, well, if this is what you want to do, if you are ready to leave the 9 to 5, because I think it is a great milestone, and it's the best thing I've ever done, right? But you have to look at yourself and say, like, are you ready for something like that? Can you handle it? Is there a way you can limit your personal expenses so that, you don't need as much from your company in the beginning when you're not making enough money? And then, you got to jump. You got to take the risk, because if you don't, you're never going to make it, right? I think, I know there's a quote that Conan O'Brien said, that the secret to his success was not giving himself a choice. And that sounds like it's nice, but it's true. Like, jump without a safety net, because you will do what it takes. You'll go into survival mode. You will do what it takes to make it. And I feel like that's exactly what I did, was just like, look, this is it. Like, and my mom, I'd love her, but she kept telling me, like, I was going to have to go get a job, and just really never thought I was going to do it. And I just went out and proved her wrong, and a lot of other people wrong. So I think that that's all part of it too.
You got to find out what works for you too, and what motivates you, and what you actually will do, and that's going to be different from everyone. So let's say you've been working on your own. Maybe you stayed in the 9 to 5 for a while. Retirement's looming on the horizon. How do we say for that? That seems to be a nice big milestone that a lot of us want to hit.
Actually,
nobody wants to retire.
We're all waiting for Matt's idea.
Well, I don't have an idea.
Don't retire.
Don't retire.
There you go.
We all know.
You know what? That is actually striking a chord to me, because I was actually working on this today, both the business stuff and the retirement stuff. And I actually now, I did the podcast, and I feel like I know a lot, but now all of a sudden I don't. Like, now all of a sudden it's crunch time, and I actually feel like I don't know what to do right now. So I'm gonna put the question out there is, I'm a single guy, but probably not going to be much longer. I do plan on retiring, and I want to. I have a Betterment account. I have an investment account, but it's pretty aggressive. Should I get? Obviously I'm a self-employed person, so I can't get a 401k for my retirement. Oh, I know I can. That's true. Right. But it's not, no one's going to match it. What about, what would you guys recommend as far as a retirement account, or is my Betterment fine, or should I just, what do you guys think in that realm?
Talk to your accountant.
I am going to do that tomorrow, but we're on a money mastermind show. I figured I can get some free advice now.
Depending on how you set up your company, is the type of retirement plans that are available to you.
Yeah, you can set up a retirement plan through your company if you want. You can even set up a defined benefit plan if you want for your company. You can even, depending on how everything's structured, you can even give yourself like a matching contribution thing happening and get that tax break on both ends. So you should, like Glenn says, talk to your accountant. There are ways to do it. I'm just really boring, and for me, just the Betterment thing is actually what I'm doing. I'm just putting it in there, and that's how I'm doing my long-term retirement.
An IRA or just an
IRA. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've got a Roth. Yeah.
Okay. And the max is still 55?
Yeah, 5,500. Yeah.
But I think a SEP IRA is.
Oh yeah. If you get a SEP, you can do more.
A little higher than that.
Yeah, and I'm looking too into like a solo 401k. You can do that as well. And there are all sorts of options. I'll probably branch out here moving forward, but for now.
Easiest though, I guess, setting up like a Betterment Roth.
Oh, that's the easiest.
Okay.
The real question, Matt, is what sort of day trading strategies are you employing? These guys are boring. I mean, let's.
I just have a bunch of penny stocks I'm looking at right now. So
yeah, let's do it Mad Men style. Like just start throwing stuff at the screen and bulls and Mad Money, not Mad Men.
Let's
Mad
just
Money.
let it ride on one company.
Well, I do a lot of gambling, mostly dice in the alley. So I got my retirement fund still working.
I hear those VCRs are going to take off.
Yeah.
Well, what else
for me,
can we do?
Just gonna say, for me, it's just best to keep it simple. Know what you know and know what you don't know. So for me, I like to keep things as simple as possible, and I invest in index funds. Like these guys talk about, I have an account with Betterment, and I also have some stuff invested at Vanguard as well. So just keep it simple, keep your costs as low as possible, and diversify. That's my
diversify within the Roth.
In other words, right. Make sure you're buying things like index funds. Don't buy just one stock that could go south on you. So diversify, and another way you can diversify is doing things like like real estate. I think Todd has talked about that on another one of our shows. Getting into real estate and buying property as a way to hedge those bets as well.
I was gonna throw in, what about doing a non-traditional approach? You guys are talking about asset-based approaches. You can look at a cash flow-based approach. Everybody here is an entrepreneur with a business. You can design a lifestyle business, produces cash flow, and build a life that you never want to retire from.
I like that idea.
Retirement's overstated. It's like it's overrated. It's what are you going to do? Retire and sit around and eat bonbons? Create a life you love. Don't worry about it.
Pay for funerals and stuff.
Yeah, you got to save money for the day when you can't produce anything and you can't produce income. But it's far away.
And we get Social Security still, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Is Obama taking care of that too?
So far, I know my dad's getting it. So
it's all about the pre-K kids. If they could, if we could get them educated, then we might have enough for Social Security. It all goes.
Obama's not going to be around much longer to help Matt out, though.
Yeah, Hillary will be, so I'm good.
No, I like what you're saying, Todd. It kind of goes back to leaving the 9 to 5 also, right? It's setting up that lifestyle, that company, that business that gives you something later on, and you get to keep growing and you keep getting benefits from it as well.
Everybody thinks about retirement as this traditional thing where you got to save up so you do nothing of substance. So you work like a dog for 30 or 40 years, save up so you can do nothing of substance for the remaining 30 years, and it's nonsense. Why don't you design? I mean, we're all entrepreneurs here. Design a lifestyle business and create a life that you love so much you never want to retire from it.
How do you mean by a lifestyle business?
Well, what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to sit there and travel year-round for year after year after year. I mean, Luke's a great example. Luke, you should pipe in. You're financially independent. You went back and you're building stuff, right? Because there's more to life than just sitting around doing nothing. The pro leisure circuit's overrated.
I'm certainly missing the cash flow that I have. I traded a very good cash flow for some security, and that was great. It was a good decision at the time, and I still think it was a great decision to sell that business. And but now it's a question of, am I going to be able to build more cash flow again? And I've been racking my brain to try to come up with something that's going to work and that works for me. And I'm certainly involved in lots of other projects in the meantime, but I haven't found that one thing. I haven't found something that's going to allow me to continue that lifestyle thing that you're talking about. And I'd like to be in a position where I'm doing something where I don't feel the need to quit someday. Doing something of interest and something that will keep me happy, so I don't feel like I want to leave. But yeah, it's a real struggle right now.
Yeah, so Luke brings up an important point, which is this difference between cash flow and assets. And when you're living off your assets, it's a whole different mentality, right, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very reluctant to dip into my investment, but as I'm drawing away from some of the other things that I've been doing to generate income, it makes things a little difficult because I'm finding I need to start, budgeting again or more closely than I had been, and start thinking about ways to reduce my expenses if I want to keep my investments going for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a math problem that a lot of people don't understand with assets, which is on a passive investment strategy, the compound rate of return, net of inflation, net of the spend down rate, it's really tough to grow them. And, Luke's having that experience. I went through it myself. There's a lot more to understand about the math of living off your assets than a lot of people talk about. So anyway, when I talk about a cash flow based retirement and a lifestyle business and stuff, it's a really cool thing. It's a whole subject in itself.
Are you talking about the 4% rule?
Well, 4% rule will be the myth of safe withdrawal rates. I mean, I've got a whole book on it. I won't hold it up like Kyle did, but
shameless, baby, shameless.
Shameless plug. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot to understand about safe withdrawal rates and about how it affects your drawdown rate on your assets, how that compounds natural drawdowns that occur with market downturns. There's a lot to it. It would be a whole show in itself to discuss. I don't want to, monopolize the show with it. But I just didn't want to go into this, one-sided thinking of retirement planning, which was, we save, we scrimp and save, we invest, all that. That's all the traditional approach. But there's a whole other way of looking at it that's a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable.
Well, it's way more fun. I mean, you think about those people that you hear about that retire, or maybe you know somebody that takes that traditional retirement at age 65, right? And then they go out to pasture and they die at 67. And I don't have any evidence of why that happens, but you hear about it enough that I think it's that they just had nothing to do anymore. There was
they lose their purpose.
Yeah, instead of getting out of bed and planning every day, now I'm just playing golf and travel. And how long can you do that?
I don't know.
But
let's find out. Somebody help me out here. Let's find out.
I think that goes back to the core of the question, though. So you're making the assumption, though, that you still have enough money in retirement to go and travel and play golf every day, right? That sounds like a pretty decent lifestyle to have enough money in retirement for. And I think a lot of people don't even have that much to go off of.
Yeah, but I'm saying that there's two sides to that. I mean, Todd's talking about the financial piece. I'm talking about just the lifestyle piece. So the part of he's talking about the exciting part of planning a retirement financially, where cash flow is still coming in. I'm talking about there's also a second piece, which is not let your brain fall asleep.
Yeah. I'm in the same camp with you, Joe. I call it the pro leisure circuit. I actually have a name for it. I call it the pro leisure circuit. And it's a very shallow life. When your life is focused on nothing more than entertaining yourself, it's not deep fulfillment. There's much more to a satisfying life than that. Our work gives us a lot of things, self-identity, self-worth, community, a bigger purpose about what we're about in the world. There's a lot to work that we don't realize. Goal-oriented behavior. The pro leisure circuit's overrated, and people don't know it until they live it. And we can joke around and say, oh yeah, go ahead, it sounds nice, that'd be a lot of fun, let me go ahead and try it. But really, go ahead and try it, man. It's well proven. It's not a fulfilling life.
But what about the non-entrepreneurs?
What about them?
Like, what do they? I mean, people have to save for retirement. It's just something they're going to have to do.
Well, I'm not saying don't save for retirement. Absolutely, you should. But let's redefine retirement as that period in life when you can no longer produce anything of meaning and you no longer have the energy to add value to society. At that point, you need the assets to carry, your burden in society until the day you're in the grave. But, let's not start thinking like there's some mythical age of 65 where you're supposed to turn over and suddenly produce nothing in the world and no longer have any contribution. I think that's nonsense.
Oh, that is nonsense. Mel Brooks. I agree.
And let's consider the fact, too, that retirement now, or at least the retirement years, are going to last so much longer than they did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. You retire at 65. You live to 95. That's 30 years.
You can look at Social Security as a small business loan.
Right? Sure. It's not that big.
Well, I mean, I know my dad. He's planning on retiring in a couple of years because he can, and that's one way, right? But he's planning on he's like, I don't want to stop working. He's just like, I just want to work on the things that I want to do. He's a musician. He wants to compose music. He wants to teach people how to score music, and he's going to I'm going to help him build an online course so that way he can, actually start his own business when he retires. So he's taking that.
He's just taking the official marker of the year and saying, okay, I could kind of cash out a little bit of it and now transfer it over to something else.
Right, and he has retirement that he saved for. He's going to get Social Security. His work, I'm sure, will help him out in some way because he does have a job. But yeah, he's looking at retirement as like starting the next phase. Where he could do the work that he has done on the side for so long, but now maybe can do it full time and maybe make some money from it. Hopefully a lot.
So the key for saving for retirement, we're saying, is maybe to rethink what retirement is, and then look at what you need for that.
I mean, studies have shown we spend more time just as people planning family vacations than we do planning our retirement.
Yeah. It took me like a good week to plan my Disney trip, and I don't know if I've ever spent a week of time just boring into my retirement. So, so let's start wrapping up here. We got an hour in, and I think we covered a lot of topics. So let's talk about a final word on planning for financial milestones. We'll start with the Money Mastermind crew itself, and then we'll go on to our guests so we can give them the spotlight of the final word. So, Tom, what's your final word on planning for financial milestones?
Well, with a lot of these milestones, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that a lot of them can be emotional, like weddings and having children and even death. The emotions sort of can get in the way and cloud your judgment. You might know how to deal with money, but as soon as these kind of things come up, it just changes how you act, and you want to kind of stay level-headed and just handle things the way you should instead of letting the emotions get too involved.
And Peter, your final word?
Well, my final word is just to kind of sit down and think about these milestones before they happen. Think about your values that you hold for you and your family, and then with those values, sit down and create some goals and think of what life milestones you actually want to occur. Plan out the ones that are important for you. Maybe buying a house isn't important for you, but there's something else that is important to you. Think about those things, set goals to reach those milestones, and then work towards them.
Miranda, your final word?
Just kind of along with what Peter said, I think the first thing you need to do is figure out which milestones are important for you to reach and whether you want to, and step back and say, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I've been told I need to check off these boxes to be successful, or am I doing this because that's what I actually want to do with my life? So I think that's your first step, is deciding which milestones actually matter to you.
And Kyle, what's your final word?
Milestone that actually matters to me is just the 1-year anniversary of the show, so I'm just going to take my time tonight to thank all of you guys for coming on many times throughout this past year, the guests and the viewers of the show. So thank you very much. Cheers to you.
Here,
Absolutely. Yeah, there we go. You got it. Drink it. Let's actually drink that. Yeah. There we go. All right. So, Matt, what's your final word?
What am I wording about here?
Planning for financial milestones.
My milestones?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Just say something.
Just say something.
Welcome to the show, man.
Just remember there's other people after you.
How many times have you been on the show? Do you know what you're doing? Come on, dude.
Have you seen the show?
It's late. I got up early this morning. Let me break. No. I guess my final word is, milestones are scary. I'm currently going through a major milestone. I'm going to be moving out of the town that I literally grew up in. I am moving in with a lovely, lovely female for the first time ever, and I'm I have never really traveled or moved anywhere outside of like the tri-state area here on the East Coast, and it's super scary, but it's exhilarating, and I was able to do that through some other milestones that I thought were important, like quitting the 9-to-5 and starting my own business, and now I'm using that milestone and jumping to a few much bigger, much more common milestones. And it's fun, it's scary, and I highly recommend it.
There you heard it. Everybody should move in with Matt's special friend.
No. That's better than Matt's special imaginary friend.
Harley, what's your final word?
My final word is just to be okay with the fact that your priorities can change throughout your life, and sometimes the milestones that you thought were important one day are not the milestones that you find are important later on in life. So just remain flexible and listen to what the universe is telling you.
Joe, what's your final word?
Well, I've got two. The first one is I knew the Money Mastermind group when you guys were just a wee baby, and to watch you grow up like this has been so special. Congratulations. You guys are getting so big. But some of these goals are big and scary, and so I like the analogy of thinking of it like an airplane ride, right? And you hear about these planes going across country, and the pilot is always making these little tiny shifts, right? They're shifting a little bit. And when I thought about milestones, even when you invited me on, I didn't think we were talking about the end goal. I thought we were talking about these milestones along the way to get there, which with some of these huge goals, we get so worried about them, We get so in our head about it that we don't do anything. So instead of that, it's like eating an elephant. Make these little tiny milestones along the way and get the little one, and the big one will take care of itself.
Elephant.
I like that one.
Tasty.
Steve, what's your final word?
It's really hard to follow up all these smart people who just said what I wanted to say. So, as much as I talk about planning ahead, it's just like Luke was saying, and it's just like Joe was saying, things are going to change. Things are going to be different. In 10 years, I mean, think about this. These things didn't exist 10 years ago, and these things have changed our lives. These little phones that are computers in our hands with a connector to the world. So plan for what you can. Expect the worst, but you're going to be better off just by staying out of debt and saving up some money on the side.
Wise advice. And Todd.
Steve can now watch all the cat videos he wants, by the way. That's the big thing he's doing on that phone.
There's some benefits to saving. Todd, what's your final word?
Well, I'm the final word of all the final words. I get to be the close, huh? So
yeah, no pressure. It's got to be good.
It's not that good. I'm going to congratulate you guys on going a year and staying on top of it. Congratulations.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
And really, thank you everyone here. Especially you guys as our guests. To some degree, you are our guinea pigs. But certainly, we built the show to a large degree on your shoulder and the work that you guys have done as well. So thank you for supporting us and being on the show. And I want to go around. I want to talk about everybody's site here. But we're going to have another hour on the show if we do that. We got Money Plan SOS. We got Financial Mentor. We got CoffeeRoasty.com. We have the Plutus Awards. We have Stacking Benjamins.
We also have RoastyCoffee.com.
What did I say?
Coffee Roasty.
Coffee Roasty. Yeah, I need coffee. It's getting late. That's another reason why we have to cut it short. Really go out and check all those sites out. They are all great resources. And some of you guys have podcasts as well. Go and listen to them. You guys know what you're talking about. So please do that. And thank you everybody out there for the past year who've been watching us and listening to us and downloading our podcast. Check us out on iTunes if you haven't already. Please do that. Tell your friends. And this way we can have a successful next year, which will be nice. Thank you all. And until next week, be good with your money.
Thanks for joining us on the Money Mastermind Show. Get more information at moneymastermindshow.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Google+.